What's up, y'all, and welcome to Worldly Church Girl Live. It's your girl, your host, Lillian Harshaw. Let's address the elephant in the room. What in the world is Worldly Church Girl? Worldly Church Girl Live is just like the podcast. Uncut, raw, unfiltered conversations with kingdom-minded people who are sharing their life stories, how they overcame for God's glory. So sit back and relax and enjoy Worldly Church Girl Live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Worldly Church Girl Live. It's your girl, your host, Lillian Harshaw. Listen, I darn near want to lean into y'all like y'all right in front of me. Listen, my internet has been down for a day and a half, so we want to thank the Lord for bringing me back up to speed because, woo! It was rough. You know how you get spoiled with the little internet because we didn't have it back in the day, and now we got it. We kind of spoiled with it. Now we act like we can't do nothing without it. But we here, so I want to thank God for technology. So so it is Friday. Happy Friday, everybody! Glad you can all join us today. We got a great show today. I have an awesome guest today. He is doing a wondrous work in the community of good old Naptown, USA. If y'all don't know what that is, that's Indianapolis, Indiana. He's just phenomenal. And I saw him on LinkedIn, and then I started being nosy and start trolling, as they say, and looking all into his profile and into his life and whatnot, and asked him if he wanted to be on the show. And he said yes. So I want to thank the Lord for that. And we have a common denominator for you mathematicians that we know too. So it gives me honor to bring to the floor Mr. Ian Scott. Am I saying your name right?
Hey, how are you? Yeah, so surprisingly, yes. Most people kind of butcher the first name, but you did everything right.
All right, now see, look at that public education, IPS.
You wouldn't believe how many names I've gotten. I've gotten Ion and Ethan. I'm like, they've just started adding stuff to my name. So I'm like,
Ethan.
You know what? Yeah, public education. I don't know. We're gonna say no more. I don't know.
Yeah, because Lillian is probably one of the oldest names in history, and I heard Lillian. I'm like, why does my name sound like an onion? No, it's just Lillian, But
right?
Anyway. But I'm so glad that you were here tonight, and thank you so much. You did seem surprised a little bit when I reached out to you, and I don't know why. Because you're doing a great work, so I don't know why.
Listen, most people ask me to stop talking. When somebody asks me to actually talk, it's an encouragement. No kidding. No, it's an encouragement. To be reached out to, thought of, and so just super humble, just appreciative.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was thoroughly impressed when I started trolling around in your life a little bit. You're a husband, a father, of course, you're a man of God. You're a finance coach, you're an entrepreneur, and I'm going to add on a motivational speaker, whether you want it or not, because I feel like you are one. And I don't. Why do you not give yourself that title?
I thought on somewhere I had it on there. I don't know. I guess maybe I didn't. So I thought I had it on there. That's actually something that I do want to be. I've listened to some really great speakers. Like Jim Rohn and Les Brown, and those are kind of the main two. That I kind of go back and forth in between. But I accept the title. So I 100% accept that title. I love it. And, I think in my teaching career, I've done more motivational speaking than actual teaching. And so I accept it.
Okay. Well, you very much deserve it. If you had it on there, I didn't see it. And that probably does sound like me, but I felt like you deserve that title because your videos that you post, they're just extremely motivational. One in particular, I was very moved by is one you posted in October of last year of you quitting your job.
Yes, ma'am.
During the pandemic, like in the midst of it all. Now, I want you to share a little bit about that testimony, about that post.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, it was kind of one of those things where it was ultimately time for me to leave what I was currently doing. I have no bad vibes, towards the system that I left. But I had to do something different, and I had to do something, for my family. And honestly, it was a faith move. And I can say that I have spoken to because basically it was what we call a porter, somebody that just basically cleans the school. Have very good relationships with her. She left, before I left. And I was on a phone call with her one day, and she told me something that I never forgot. She told me something that her aunt told her. And she said to leap and the net will appear. She told me to leap and the net will appear. And so I had it posted on my wall and everything. And sometime after, basically, I was just sitting, texting my wife, saying, "Hey, I really don't want to be here anymore." And so she basically told me to quit. And if anybody knows me, you should probably give me time parameters on when I should do something, because she wasn't expecting me to quit immediately. She was like, thinking maybe 2 months down the road. I think I quit like 2 weeks after that text.
There's
But
no notice.
zero notice, like zero, none. And so she had actually taken a picture of the little post that I had put that my lady gave me. And again, it said leap and the net will appear. And she asked me, "What does this mean?" So she was just around my computer, my workstation, and she just asked me, "What does this mean?" And for me, that was confirmation. And when my wife gave me confirmation, and she was comfortable with me leaving, then it was like, I'm out. I didn't need, anything else. So I took that as God's okay, of me leaving. And honestly, God has kept me through since. It hasn't been super easy, but when I left, when I quit, it was free. Like I had so much weight off my shoulder that, I didn't really care what was coming next. I just knew that God was going to figure it out.
And so God already figured it out. You just was waiting to see what he already had planned.
So better. You said way better than I could have. Absolutely. And so, I just knew that God had worked it out, and over time it was going to manifest itself at the proper time. And I mean, since I quit and until now, I mean, we've had, stimulus checks. We just had all the, different types of assistance. And not that I want to live on government assistance or that I want to depend on it, but it was helpful and I took it. I didn't,
as we all did.
So I utilized it, for what I could. And even, just kind of with my other side deal and my the main occupation that I chose to go into once I left teaching. I mean, it's just basically, been keeping, our family steady. I even, was able to pay off my car. And so now I got that paid off. And then I had spoken to my friend that I worked with. His name is Jordan. And he basically was talking to somebody, and they had asked about me. And they said, "How's Mr. Scott doing?" And he's like, "He's doing good." And they asked about, was my business successful? And his response was, "Hey, he's able to pay his rent." And so I haven't been evicted, haven't really had lights shut off. I think they got shut off once, but they were turned back on within a day or so. So honestly, it's been a whirlwind of emotions, but God has been keeping me steady and keeping me sane. If anybody knows what entrepreneurship is, he's been keeping me sane.
Amen. Amen. Now, your motto that you say, you're always looking for the next leader that's looking to help impact others. I want you to expound on that a little bit.
So a lot of, if I start talking about leadership a lot, I think it would not be strange to know that I've been reading a lot of John Maxwell. John Maxwell, he's like the guru on just leadership. He can take leadership and write like 100 books on it. And he has. But leadership is basically, I'm looking for a leader. Not looking for projects. Not looking, to I want to turn people into leaders, but I want them to kind of already have something, kind of ready to go. Looking for somebody, that wants to lead. Looking for somebody that, again, what I mean by impact the world, I mean, the world needs to change.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the world needs to change. On one end, you got, the saints, so to speak, praying for God to come because the world is so wicked. as opposed to praying to God and say, God, lift up other people to change the world and change what's going on in the world. Yes, we want God to come, but God is not coming yet until he gives proper time. And in that proper time, we should be focused on how can we change the world? How can we impact the world? How can we help, excuse me, how can we help the next person, that's just around us? And so my biggest goal is I got to leave an impact. If I'm going to live on this earth and I only got one shot at it, I want generations after me to rejoice because of, the things that, I was able to do to impact the world. Martin Luther King, his name is going to live on forever. I don't think he did that by design, but, he was a leader and he left an impact on the world. And, my impact, may not be in the civil rights, direction, or may not be as big, but I got to leave some kind of impact to where somebody know I was here and not just another tombstone.
Right. Amen. Now, one of the things that you venture into, well, one of your businesses, I should say, because you have quite a few, is that you help people with their finances.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, can you expound a little bit on that, on that business venture?
So a little bit about, just kind of the firm's mission, our company's mission is just really helping people earn more income, helping them become, debt-free, helping them become, properly protected, and, just ultimately helping them just become just financially independent. Right. Because I mean, ultimately, why do people go to jobs? Not because they want to, ultimately, the end goal is because of money.
Right.
Now, most people choose professions that they can tolerate for the money that they receive, at least in my opinion. But, there's so many people that are just out here struggling, and I mean, straight struggling, you miss 2 paychecks, you're on the street.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't have just the knowledge about money. They don't know how to save. They don't know how to invest. They don't have any life insurance. They don't have any retirement plans. They're just kind of living life, just waiting, right? Depending on the government, to do everything, and, striking and going on riots saying raise the minimum wage to this level. And I mean, it's like, I teach people how to deal with their money so that they can actually control their money at whatever level it looks like. And so ultimately, it's just more so about financial literacy, which actually, when I was teaching, I was able to kind of ease that in to some of my lesson plans as a math teacher, 5th grade math teacher. And I was just teaching my students about entrepreneurship and just about money in general, not spending more than you have. Credit cards are actually not bad. Like, you can actually get over on the credit card companies, the ones that give you cash back. You spend it, get the cash back, and pay it off. If you pay it off every month, they can't charge you interest. Can't charge interest on zero.
Facts.
And so it's more so, again, just teaching people how to use their money. That's really it.
Well,
and if you want me to expound more, just ask more.
I'm going to ask you something else. Now, what age do you think is important for someone to start saving up for their retirement?
As old as they can walk.
Okay.
So ideally, parents need to start saving at a very early age, for their kids. Whatever amount you can start with, because the idea of saving is compound interest has to take effect. Right. So a person starting at, let's just say, age 15, which is generally when, most people are working, or even earlier, if you have like a babysitting job or cutting lawn, whatever the case may be, you need to be putting something away every single month as early as you can, because here that starts saving, just call it $25 a month, is going to be in a way better position than the 30-year-old who starts saving $25 a month. If the goal is both of them, to be at age 65, that 18-year-old typically is going to potentially have more at age 65 than the 30-year-old is going to have at age 65. Why is that? Compound interest. The market is going to go up. The market is going to go down. And so, you got to give the market time to do that. And the younger you are, the better. If you older, Well, it's actually costing you more money because you've delayed saving for whatever reason. And so I
Right.
think as early as you can, if you haven't started saving, like today is good. And so as early as possible.
Okay. Now, what is your thoughts on like a 401k and or versus like saving on your own?
So I got to, and I'm actually securities licensed, so I got to be very careful, what I say and how I say it, as not
Okay.
to misconstrue anything.
Okay.
401ks are typically, with the job. I think
Right.
if the company is going to match it, then you need to match it. If they're going to
Okay.
match it. And then don't go above the match. So if a company's going to only match 6% and you're putting in 10%, well, you can take that extra percentage and put it in like a Roth IRA.
Okay.
Max that out, as best as you can. Typically it's 6,000 a year that you can max that out because the government has limitations on that. And then anything outside of that, I would either go back to matching or I would put it in like a short-term account or a emergency fund, just kind of things like that. But 401k, I definitely think is great if you can get one, or a 403b if you're working in like a school system. But match it, anything above it, Roth IRA, max that out to 6,000 as close as you can. Anything extra, throw it in like a short-term account, emergency account, pay off some debt, different things like that.
Okay. Now, what about stocks? Like
Stocks.
investing in stock?
So I actually cannot comment on that.
Okay.
The degree that I can comment on it is you got to be very smart when you're dealing with stock. You got to make sure that you are diversified. So, for example, let's say Apple, and this is a disclaimer. This is not a solicitation to buy Apple stock. But let's
Right.
just say one person has 5,000 and they want to invest in Apple. And let's say stock is basically ownership with the company. The company does well, you'll do well. But if the company does very poorly, well, they have way more money than you. So you're going to do poorly and you're going to lose all your money. I would suggest something like a mutual fund. Mutual funds, they are still risky, but not as risky as stock. And so mutual fund is basically it's already diversified for you. So I would recommend, if you're just starting out, you need to at least start a retirement plan with a mutual fund, because that's technically how your 401k in some cases work. But stock, again, I have nothing against it. You just got to be smart at what you're doing. If you're not going to sit there and watch it all day, what we call a day trader, then I would be very cautious as what you do. And then again, very cautious at what companies you invest in. Again, just make sure you do your due diligence and just research the companies you're investing in. But mutual funds is ultimately a great way to go when it comes to starting to invest and starting to save.
Okay. Now, something that you do that's not on the financial side, but very on the creative side, is you have a photography studio.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what got you into photography?
So actually two things. Well, three. Number one, I kind of got fed up with graphic design. So I actually have a visual communications background, graduated from IUPUI with a BS in visual communications. So I did that for a little bit and I'm relatively okay with it. I can create some simple things. But honestly, I just kind of kept taking pictures with my phone. When I would be on the Greyhound bus going back and forth from Gary to Indianapolis, I would just take different pictures. I would, bend down on the ground and take pictures. But, one of the people that actually inspired me to kind of, get into photography is actually my brother, Polano Jones. And so, he's been shooting, long before I've, even kind of thought about shooting. And I just saw just the creative stuff that he was able to do. And so eventually I kind of, got my own camera. But the person that really kind of honed in everything and just kind of really cultivated it was actually Pastor John Gurden. He has his media firm, Gert Enterprises. And before then it was like mass media. But ultimately he was the one that kind of, really gave me my first start. He was the type that just put a camera in my hand and say, hey, shoot. right? And then just kind of over time, he
That
taught me
sound like
different
him.
things, f-stop and, exposure and shutter speed. And then I had another guy named Eric Dykes. He was also very, helpful in just my growth in photography. And honestly, I just kind of took off on my own, and I didn't have a background in it. I just kind of picked it up and seemingly had an eye for it. Gotten a lot of, let's call it accolades, a lot of praise just for the work that I've done. And since then, I mean, I've worked with, I worked with Yelp, which for me was a pretty big deal. I've done some work for the YMCA, which again, pretty big deal. Ortho
It
Indy,
is.
just kind of those things. I've worked with some models. Some years ago, we actually had a Hoops Meets Heels by I want to say WNBA Shira Eli Gash. She had like a little fashion show, and I was actually able to be a part of that as one of the photographers.
Wow.
And so I've just kind of figured my way out around it, and God has just really put me in certain positions to be available, and so the kind of where I am.
Yeah, because that is you do have to have a certain eye for that. Not everybody can just pick up a camera and just start taking some pictures, because that
Right.
is not going to be cute.
Right.
It'd be basic, but it's not going to be cute.
Right. Just because you have an iPhone does not mean you can be a photographer. So way more than just taking pictures. It's composure, it's composition, it's a lot of stuff.
The lighting, yeah, all that good stuff.
Yes.
So the name of your company is Sean Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you come up with that name?
Actually, so I didn't come up with it, and I don't know if my mother's actually watching, but when I was younger, so number one, I'm the guy with like 5 different first names. So my full name is Ian, Sean, Christopher, James, Scott. James is no longer on my name, and I can explain that later if you want to. But my mom used to often just call me just as a nickname, Sean Chris. And so pretty much my mother is the one that pretty much gave me the name for my photography. I didn't really know what else I wanted to call it. So I'm like, Sean Chris.
Because when I saw it, I was like, that ain't him. So then, because again, I was trolling. I'm like, I'm on the wrong website. So I clicked it again. I'm like, no. And so I kept reading. I was like, oh, okay. It is him.
I had hair then, but it is me.
You did have hair then. You had the you had
Mohawk-ish.
I wouldn't say Mohawk-ish, but it was
twisties, I think.
Yeah. You had hair.
Right.
You had
whatever the style is, I had it.
You had the hair then, but you had some beautiful photos on there. Absolutely beautiful photos.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Now, is that the when we was talking about you quitting your job? Now, was that one of the main reasons why you quit, so you can focus on that full time?
Oh no, actually, it was the financial. So the financial business, that was the reason why I quit. Because I just wanted to be able to do that full time, give my full time focus to that. And I mean, that was pretty much the vehicle that was paying me the most at the time, and still is. And photography pays well. And so when I actually reach out and do it, or when people request me, so ultimately, I quit ultimately just because I wanted to be free. I wanted to have the freedom to do what I wanted. And so the financial piece, that was like 90% of it. The photography was like, 10% of it. And so I just wanted to be free. So I can
free indeed. Then you're free indeed.
Right.
Free indeed. Now, what advice would you give someone right now who wants to pursue their dream, but is afraid to actually go after it like you did?
So I'll give this analogy. So I'm very good at, giving analogies and just kind of, that's really the only way I understand things. I understand things in pictures. So let's just call it a timeline. And, you start at the beginning of that timeline, and in 20 years, you're going to be 20 years older. Now, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to be 20 years older and have not realized your dreams, not driving what you want to drive, not living what you want to live, or living where you want to live, not wearing what you want to wear, or you're going to be 20 years older doing everything you can dream of. Right? God does, in my mind, this is my opinion, God does not bless timid people. He blesses those who walk in faith, who walk in courage. I mean, think about it. Everybody in the Bible, you can kind of almost point any of them out. They had some kind of fear or something that technically could hold them back. Moses, couldn't speak. In his own mind, he couldn't speak. What if Moses just completely disobeyed? Well, God would have found somebody else. And so now you're going to be sitting jealous because somebody else is living out their dreams when you actually had the opportunity to.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's okay to be afraid. I would be lying to tell you that I was not afraid, in the not knowing what's going to happen next sense.
Right.
But I knew that God figured it out already. God had it figured out. Mm-hmm. And then the best thing is if it don't work, you can always go back to something else. Right. Mm-hmm. And so life is more so like chess. You move one piece, you figure out that didn't work. You move another piece, you figure out, okay, now I'm getting traction. And so again, you are only going to have one life. I mean, think about all of the successful people.
Right.
Multiple people had fears and just didn't know if it was going to work. The only way you know if your dreams will come true is to actually pursue your dreams. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's going to cost you one way or the other. It's either you're going to pay the cost of regret or you're going to pay the cost of sacrifice to actually get what you want. You got to pay something.
Right.
You just got to pick and choose which one you want to pay and which one you can live with. So hopefully that cleared it up.
It did.
Answer.
It did. It did. So what is next for you? Well, actually, before I ask you that question, what would you say is your personal motto? So your personal mission statement, I should say.
And actually, I kind of cheated a little bit, so I kind of knew you were going to ask me this because I looked at some of your other videos. So, hey,
I know.
Game recognized game. But ultimately, my personal mission, motto, mantra, philosophy, I don't know what to call it. I read Ezekiel, and I might be wrong on the scripture, but Ezekiel 22:39 or 22:29. But nonetheless, it was talking about how God was getting ready to destroy just the nation, getting ready to destroy that particular nation at the time. And he said that he didn't want to destroy it. He was actually searching for somebody to stand in the gap so that he didn't have to destroy it, but he couldn't find anybody, so he destroyed it. Right. And so in my mind, I'm a gap filler. I'm the one that's willing to stand in the gap for whoever I need to stand in the gap for, whether that's, somebody that's being mistreated or, like my students, I went to bat for them. Like anybody said anything bad about them, I would just be ready to be at their necks, so my goal is to stand in the gap, whatever that looks like. And honestly, I'm still figuring out what that even means. But I just feel that God has called me to stand in the gap, whether that I don't necessarily know if that's just intercessory prayer or, whatever. And ultimately, I think it's, more action oriented or prayers in action. But I just feel God has called me to stand in the gap, which is honestly probably why I got into the financial industry. Because most people will get taken advantage of in the financial industry. That's just flat out truth. They've been doing it for years. And so my goal is to stand in the gap for them, to answer, the call to make to make sure that, they're taken care of. And so it's just to be helpful. I'm still trying to figure it out, what that ultimate mission statement is. But I do know it involves basically pushing up people. And helping people and aiding people and, ultimately leading people to God. However I can do that, whatever that may look like, that's really the goal, is just to stand in the gap for people.
Now, do you think that, I'm going back to the financial statement that you made, that people are being ran over more or less. Yep. Do you think, is it the necessarily lack of knowledge or the fear of just people are scared just to talk about money?
It's ultimately the lack of knowledge. And I think it's more so a fear because so many people have been done wrong, or they've seen other people done wrong, and so when the subject of money comes up, there's that fear. The other fear of money is basically a lot of people, again, they just don't know. It's just there's a severe financial illiteracy that's just sweeping the nation, and it's not like the information is not out there. You either have A, people who are just not willing to go find it, or B, you have people who are just not willing to teach it. And so a lot of reasons why people get taken advantage of is, number one, they just simply don't know. And then, number two, you have some financial industries that just simply just aren't clear in what's going on. They'll tell you they're giving you one thing and they'll give you another. And when people don't read their contracts, well, now this is where, they start to kind of get in trouble. And again, a lot of them don't even know what they're reading if you put it in black and white.
Right.
And so for me, it's just more so of I am a guide. I am an educator by nature. And so I teach people, again, what they have or what they don't have, why they need it, whatever the case may be. I'm just a guide. So I give them the information and they can do with it as they please.
Do you think it's a cultural thing that we don't know too much about finances?
100%. So on a major level, I think it's ultimately, I think it's cultural. And you can even study this, like even the Jewish culture, they're just very wise with money, and hopefully this is not like, anti-Semitic, but is really, they're just wise with money. There's a book called Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Lapin, Lapin, that I'm starting to study. And he just kind of goes over, just how, Jewish people, how they handle their money, how they see their money, which is very different from the Christian worldview of money. So again, even the church has some responsibility because the church teaches, be super pious, don't want anything, be poor, and, God will love you. Like, that's not in the Bible, like anywhere. And in fact, there are multiple cases where God approves of wealth. And a lot of times pastors will use the scripture, well, the one man that wanted to follow Jesus, and Jesus asked him to kind of get rid of all his wealth,
all his riches,
right? Because he did everything else. And the man went away sad. And a lot of, preachers and pastors or, quote unquote, men or women of God, they utilize that to just condemn riches. And honestly, when you really do a deep dive into it, Jesus didn't care about the man's riches. He cared about his heart.
His soul, right.
It was a heart issue. It was a heart issue. You can have wealth. Solomon had wealth. I would imagine a lot of the judges of Israel had wealth. When the Bible is described, or when heaven is described, it's described with, streets paved with gold. I don't know about anybody else, but street paved with gold sounds a lot like wealth. It talks about all of the rubies and the crowns and the stones, and, God is blinged out. Right. From a worldly perspective, God got it, the cattle on 1,000 hills. For people who don't understand, back in that time where it makes sense, cattle was, equivalent to wealth. The more cattle you had, the more wealth you owned. Right. And so, ultimately it's coming from multiple points. It's coming from, an African-American perspective where, just as African-Americans, we just did not have access, to much knowledge back then. But honestly, that was back then. We cannot hold on to the same mindset back then. We can't go back to what the man did and, all this other stuff and excuses that we like to give. The information is out there. We just got to go get it. And then the churches have to stop teaching what's not in the Bible. That's just reality. We got to stop teaching what's not in the Bible. So many broke Christians now blaming God when God ain't said nothing.
Right? I didn't say that. Yeah.
God did not say anything. God is okay with you having wealth, because here's ultimately, and I believe this came from Rabbi Lapin or some of my other mentors. Money is a certificate of deposit for the service you give. In my mind, the more money you have, the more people you have served. We have this mindset that all rich people are evil, and they had to step on people, to get
where they are. Yeah, right.
I know multiple millionaires, super humble, We'll help you out in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
How did they get there? They served a lot of people. If you look in your bank account and you ain't got no money, well, that probably means you ain't served nobody but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why does it
Mm-hmm.
make sense for, like even my son, my 8-year-old son, sometimes I'm kind of jealous. He got money more than I do. Right? Bro got like stacks
Living
of
his
cash.
best life, huh?
Right? I'm like, son, let me hold a dollar. Right? Everybody hates Chris. Let me hold something, little man.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he goes upstairs to my neighbor and he basically takes out her trash. What does she do? She compensates him. Why did he get compensated? He
Because he
served
worked
her.
for it. He served for it. Right.
He served her. Right? He deserves that money and more if he's willing to serve.
Right.
My issue with, with raising the minimum wage is just saying, hey, pay me more, but I'm not willing to do anymore. I'm willing to just do the flat mile and, that's it. From my understanding and from just my belief, minimum wage is not meant for you to stay there. It's a
starting point. It's a starting point.
It's a stepping stone.
Right.
And then you got the same people who complain about making more money. You tell them to start a business. Oh, everybody's not meant to start a business. Which one do you want? Like, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Choose one. You can't say, oh, the government's not giving more money or my boss is not giving more money. And, oh, I don't want to start a business because it's not for everybody. People got to understand that when companies draw up their business plans, you are not in mind in terms of how much we're going to pay you. Nowhere in the business plan did they say they were going to pay you a livable wage.
Right.
You interviewed. They told you how much they were going to pay you. You agreed. Why are you complaining 2 years later, talking about why you ain't giving me a raise? Did they say they were going to give you a raise?
Right.
You agreed to the contract. Can't really, you agree. That's like, in the Bible, again, when the men were working, like the Bible is so good. It had so many problems already worked out. When the people were in the vineyard and, one came in early in the morning, was working just, hard for an agreed upon wage. Then some others came in later for an agreed upon wage. Then the one, let's say he came in and did an hour's worth of work for an agreed upon wage. Now, from my understanding, the master paid them all equally.
Right.
The first servant got upset and said, hey, I've been here slaving away, and I'm paraphrasing, but I've been here slaving away. Why does he get, the exact same pay?
Right.
Well, the master said, did I act with you shrewdly? Did I act dishonestly? Didn't we agree upon what I would pay you? Am I wicked? Can I do what I want to do with my own money? And so they just taught me a valuable lesson. You agreed upon what you agreed upon. We got to stop thinking small. We think small, and that's also why a lot of people are in the financial struggles that they are in because of their small thinking. Right. They think, I just got to go get a job. I just got to work at White Castle.
Just to pay my rent.
Like you can do more
and put gas in my car. Right.
You can do more than that. And I don't honestly, I don't care. And there's this quote, and I don't know who said, I forgot who said it. They said that it's not your fault if you are born poor. It's your fault if you die poor. If you live in America. Because think about all of the people that came up from rags to riches. I believe Tyler Perry slept in his car for years. Now look at where he is. I would imagine that his belief system had something to do with it.
Oprah Winfrey.
Right? Oprah, there's multiple people who took risk, who dreamed or had a vision, right? IBM, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. They quit IBM, started their little companies in their garage. Look at where they are now. Ray Kroc started McDonald's, didn't really have much. Look at where he is now. He followed his dream. Right? Sam Walton, his story wasn't as big. He started at, I encourage everybody to pick up, Sam Walton's biography. How he started Walmart was so humbling. Most business owners start with nothing. But I'm going to tell you something, and this is normally what I do when I'm talking to people of just about, just about my business, and Lily, I'm going to just kind of use you as just as an example. So Lily, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer me honestly. Would you like to be wealthy?
I didn't say it one more time.
Yeah. Would you like to be wealthy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? So I have a foolproof plan that has nothing to do with me or my company at all. I have a foolproof plan on how you can become wealthy. Would you like to know this secret?
Absolutely.
You have an overwhelmingly large need that affects the most amount of people or a large population. You find a way to meet that need, then you become wealthy.
That's right.
Simple.
Yep.
It's so simple.
It
That this
really is.
information is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, there's a lot of elders in my neighborhood. And so if my son took a overwhelmingly large need, the elders who don't really want to leave their house to go to the dumpster, no matter how close or how far it is, it affects a large population. Let's just call it 80%. If they all paid him $7 or $8 or $5, you know, once or twice a week, he's making more money than me.
Making a little piece
Why?
of change.
Because he
supplied the need. Yep.
Right. No, Jim Rohn would say, you know, who is this fool who brings me his need and doesn't bring me any seed? It's foolish to ask the ground to produce a harvest and you ain't planting nothing.
All right now.
But we want a harvest. We want all these great things, right? We want more money. We want the car. We plant something.
Right.
And then keep planting and then keep planting and then keep planting. Because you got to be an ambitious planter. You can't plant something. You can't plant your dream in the ground and plant or, you know, just wait 90 days and expect it to flourish.
Right.
You got to plant and plant and plant and plant until something grows. You got to plant in the day. You got to plant in the noon because you don't know which one is going to grow.
Right.
Right. All Bible. And so I have no idea how I got on that tangent. I hope I answered what you asked me.
I do, but it's all in line. No, because I asked you do you think that it's a cultural thing?
Oh, yeah, all of that fit.
That's why I said it's all in line.
Listen, I'm a teacher, so I've lost my students sometimes. I'm like bunny rabbit, squirrel, different tangents, but yeah.
No, it's all in line. But one scripture popped in my mind when you was talking about how people don't stick in saying the Bible. One of the scriptures they always misquote, and they always say that now it's gone. See, devil. The love of the
love of money.
Money is a root of all evil. Yeah, they always misquote it. Always misquote it. They just they take the love part out, and it's like they just say like you just said, if you want money, it's evil. No, it's the love of money is the root of all evil.
I would even beg to ask us to dive down even deeper into that. Because think about it. A wicked person can love money and do wicked things. A righteous person can love money and do righteous things. So in my mind, it's really the heart behind the love of money.
Right.
So if your heart is wicked, you're only going to do
wicked things right with it. Right.
But if your heart is righteous, then in my mind, God is going to have to, you know, give me whatever, you know, to change that. But in my mind,
that's word, because God judges the heart.
It's the heart.
Yeah,
everything is about the heart.
Yeah, God judges the heart. That's why he's judging us all individually. He's not putting us all in one big old group and saying, all y'all going to hell. Because all y'all did the same thing. So all y'all going to hell. No. What was that reason of why they did that? Because it was what was in their heart. It was when that happened. So, no, I agree with you.
Heart of the issue. Yep. Yeah. Again, my mind is just the heart of the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you cheated and been watching my shows, not for the reason of watching it, you watch it to do homework.
Well, I only answered the mission statement. That was the only one that I looked at. So if you ask me anything else, I'm like, you know, deer in headlights. I have no idea what's coming next.
I'm just messing with you. So what is next for you?
Honestly, the finance piece, where I plant my flag. That's where I plant my flag. My goal is, you know, to build it large enough. Number one, on two different levels. Number one, to help set more people free. because I offer people an opportunity to come work with me, and to build, a business, just helping families, with me. Because my goal is to serve thousands upon thousands upon thousands, of families. And so, and then again, the other one I just kind of led into is I want to just help more families, and so the finance piece right now, is just kind of, the vehicle that's going to drive that. And kind of down the road, you all might see me back in education, not necessarily to teach it, but I do want to own, hint, hint, I want to own a school system, as to where I can teach them how to be entrepreneurs, how not just to have this belief that it's college or die. I think that is the silliest statement in the world, especially when there have been multiple successful people who did not go to college and who did not finish high school. Finish high school. Please finish high school. But I mean, if you don't, it's not the end of the world, because there are countless and endless people, right? Henry Ford, they thought he was like, no man this dumb should have this much power. They took him to court, right? And so my goal is to be able to influence the education system, and, to be able to, I just want to be like a philanthropist. I guess that's the better word for everything that's in my mind. Because there's a lot of stuff in my mind. I tell you right now, I want to own a school. Tomorrow, I want to own an island. I don't know. My mind just works extremely in fast spurts. So I have multiple thoughts of just different things I want to do, but I can't do them until I have the money.
The money's coming.
The money, then I can do more stuff. Because
the money's coming.
Money allows you to serve. That's really all I wanted for. I didn't want to serve. I want my family to be well. I want my mom to be able to enjoy the latter years, of her life. I want to be able to give people a new start. And so ultimately, that's what I'm here for. That's what's next. And I'm going to use my financial business and whatever else God shows me and gives me as means for that. Because I can live on whatever minimum wage is. I'm very simple person, but my wife can't, my children can't, my community can't, my church can't, and whatever else God puts in my head can't. So they need me to be able to make more money, and the financial business that I'm in is going to provide me that opportunity. And how I know this is because I've seen it with my own eyes. I just told you I have, probably a couple of millionaires in my phone, that I have access to. And just the things that they're able to do, this business have allowed them to do it. And so that's my goal.
All right. So how can people contact you?
So I'm very open. So people can, honestly, you can look me up on Facebook. Let me just make sure my Facebook is what it is. But my Facebook, I believe it should be Ian Scott. I changed it recently. But, my Facebook is Ian Scott. LinkedIn, you can find me on there as Ian Scott. My actual cell phone number, I'm open with people texting me, calling me, 317-602-0009. I'm never worried about people scamming me or anything else, because I'll block in a minute. So the block button is real quick. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Ian S. Scott. On Twitter, I don't know what my Twitter is. But yeah, I mean, anyway, your listeners want to get in touch with me, you can email me. That is my photography email. And that's pretty much, the main ways that they can get in touch with me.
All right. And if y'all want to get your some professional photos done, here's his website. Please check it out. Please go to it. Beautiful, beautiful photos. Everybody wants their professional headshots and whatnot, but it's beautiful. So I say look you up.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So here are your last two questions, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You ready? Now, if you could have any actor portray you in your life story, who would it be and why?
Funny question. Honestly, hands down, it would. God rest in peace. It would be Chad Boswell. I think.
Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, there we go. I got names mixed up. But the gentleman that played Black Panther. My students used to say that I looked like him a lot. And then the other person people say I favor was actually Wesley Snipes. So it had to be, one of them.
Okay.
It would have to be Wesley, since,
Okay.
Wesley is, still, alive and well. So it would have to be Wesley Snipes.
All right. Okay. But why? But besides everybody saying, do you look like him? But why would you pick him to play you?
Honestly, I didn't think that far. Just honestly, because of the similarity. I don't really know. Maybe Jim Carrey. Just because of just he's dude is funny. Dude is
Mm-hmm.
just wildly insane, and
He
every
is.
now and then, if you catch me off guard, I'll be doing like the weird stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
that guy that is like kicking in the air when I'm at home by myself. I'm just doing just off the wall
Just
weird stuff,
random.
just random stuff. So I'm a very random person. So I would definitely say, Jim Carrey. I don't know. I never really thought of that question. I'll have to think of a
I'm just
question.
saying, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to have all these businesses, one day your life story may become a script, and you're going to have to think of who's going to play you.
But yeah, the people that I want to play me are probably gonna be a lot older, like people like Denzel or something. I don't know. I have again the way my brain works. I would give you like 10 different people, and none of them would match personality wise at all. So you're probably like, Ian, what are you talking about? I don't know. That's just
You
what
don't
my
know.
brain came up with.
Well, I had to ask the missus. I had her sit there and pick your character.
Yeah, so please,
Because,
she'll do
yeah.
it, and it'll be fine. She'll be spot on. Me, I will be, Bill Gates. I don't know. Like, he's not even an actor. I don't know. But
SpongeBob.
I have watched a lot of SpongeBob,
Who
in my
hasn't?
younger years. So SpongeBob wouldn't be too far off.
Younger years, man.
No.
We're talking about just a few years ago.
SpongeBob had one tagline. I'm ready.
Yeah. See, there you go.
I'm ready.
Now, next question, and here is your last question.
Okay.
If you could have any song be your theme song when you walked into a room, what would it be and why?
So there is this artist named Jonas, Yonas, and hopefully I pronounced it right. He has this song titled "I Could," and just the entire song is just really talking about how he just made it because he knew he could, even though people doubted him. He just kind of mentions in the line that all he needed was God, but there it would just be that song that I could, Jonas, I could, because I mean, he made it and he knew that he would. So I know I'm going to make it. Number one, because I got God and, I got my wife and my children, but also because I got a burning desire that, I'm not going to stop till I get it. So that will be the song. So Jonas, I Could.
All right. See that? Now, see, you knew that one. That wasn't even a brain. That wasn't even a thought.
Well, I listen to it like 20 times a week. So that might have helped.
Well, you know what? I cannot thank you enough for being on here. You were phenomenal. And I love everything that you're doing. Like I said, that the fact that you're helping the community, you're doing all this positive work, the motivational posts that you put out, I would say every other week, if not a few times in a week.
When the mood strikes me.
When the Lord hits you to do it. I mean, they're purposeful, if that's a word.
Yeah.
That is, it's going to be a word today if it's not. Right. But I, like I said, I really, really, I know you're going to be all right. You're gonna do it. And when you're trying to sit down and think of that actor,
I'm gonna do my homework. I'm gonna sit down and think of an actor. I'm gonna get back.
No, I'm already saying give it to your wife.
Okay.
That is not the job for you. Everything else you got on lock, but as far as picking somebody to play you, you pass that baton to the missus, or even maybe your 8-year-old, since he knows how to get that money. But thank you so much. I truly enjoyed you, and I will talk to you very soon.
All right, talk to you soon.
I want to thank all of you for being on, for watching today's show, and I want to thank my guests. And don't forget, World of Church Girl, we'll be back on Tuesday with another great guest. And as always, thanks for joining. Oh, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And as always, thanks for joining your one and only World of Church Girl.